I was never really good at much else, you know? So I don't know. Once I found out I was decent at something, I just kind of focused and just, went for it. When I started being able to put songs together and I started figuring out well, I might be almost as good as that rapper, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna keep going.
That was Eminem on the Hotboxing podcast with Mike Tyson. He was talking about what drove him to pick up rap in the first place. He wasn't good at much, but when he found he was good at writing, rhyming, putting things together and making music, that's when things really took off for him. What I'm going to do today is just cut and paste a whole bunch of these clips in relation to self-esteem and this imposter syndrome that a lot of people carry along with them. That's my specialty. Let's go.
I was afraid, I was afraid early on, 15, 16 years old. I was afraid that to go into any clubs or anything like that to say my raps because I felt like I wasn't good enough yet. So I had to get to a certain spot. And then I was trying to I was just making songs. And one day I got a call from my boy Proof, and he was like, yo, you need to come up to the hip hop shop. When I went to the hip hop shop, I was like, what the fuck? He was like, yo, I'll clear everybody out. I'll have 10 people, right? And you rap in front of them. And if they don't like you, they're going to tell you they don't like you. if they do like you and they fuck with you, then, So I went there. I said the rap. I got some people jumping around and shit. And I was like, okay, this might be it for me. And then that's when we start having battles at the hip hop shop.
15, 16, massive time when you're trying to renegotiate what the hell it means to be a kid, what it means to be entering into the teenage years and being around people who you're trying to connect with and leaving the nest. Now, Eminem has his own life story that I'm not going to repeat here because, quite frankly, I think everyone should tell their own life story. But what I want to say is he does cover in this interview how he got into a lot of fights, how he got into a lot of issues growing up when there was instability at home, at school. For him, having that outlet, that time where he's able to rap, where he's able to put verses together and where he's able to say, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this. And then the thing that switched for him was when somebody else recognized that in him. Now, as a teen, when we haven't had that early on, and I would say throughout our life, if we haven't had that, and somebody else is able to be that reinforcement for us, then we build up that move forward. We may have a certain level of self-confidence, but in the sense that we're good at what we're doing, but when somebody else recognizes that amplifies it and that moves things forward for us.
It's not about the money all the time, right? So it's like when you lose a fight and you get depressed, it's because your competitive nature and your competitive spirit is wounded, right? Because
it's the reason that we started doing this, because we're not good enough. It goes in your mouth. We're not good enough. He's better than me, and it fucking kills you. That somebody's better than you, and you believe in your head that you're God or you're the best or whatever you believe you are.
Tyson just jumps in and said, well, the reason why we do the things we do is because we don't think we're good enough. And at that moment, you see Eminem swallow. And oftentimes when we swallow, it's often somebody's hit the nail on the head in terms of their own experience, but now it resonates with us. And he's quite upfront. And in fact, this interview is a really important one because you don't really see Eminem bearing his soul the way he does. He usually does that in music. But here we have the sense that I'm not good enough. The thing that I want to do better to lift my own level of self-esteem is to do what we are good at. And if we do what we're good at, and for Tyson, it's beating up on people. For Eminem, it's rapping and getting his fight out when it comes to rapping. That's the thing that changes up. And we're just going to keep doing that until we start to have our internal sense of confidence and our external perceived sense of confidence melding into one. And if we're pretty good at managing these and integrating them, that's when things get better. It's often when people feel like an imposter when these don't match up and they haven't integrated these. They're good. Other people think that they're good and see that they're good, but at the same time, these don't wed together. And so there's one part of them that says you're good, and then there's that other voice that says you're just faking it. They're gonna find you out at some point in life. They don't really get into that in here, but from a psychological point of view, that's something That is really important to think about.
So I'm on the show and I said, good night. And there's 4,000 people. And when I say good night in Toronto, they all get up and they come to the stage. And they just want to touch me. And I don't know what to do. The security's not doing nothing.
Right.
I don't want these people to think I'm scared and run off. I want to run. But so I just get caught in it. It was just overwhelming and shit that people think that way about you. And in my mind, I always had a low self-esteem. I said, if these people think much about me, they must not be shit. You know what I mean? Because why would you think about me? Because I don't think I'm shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Here, when Tyson gets into his own vulnerabilities, he's up on stage, he's doing his thing, and then a whole bunch, thousands of people come up to him, and he's just like looking around. He's got that drive to run off, which is pretty paradoxical because he's usually willing to punch people in the face when it comes to feeling under threat and scared. And he goes into that in the interview, which you'd do yourself a favor to watch the whole thing. He had to feel that fear, to channel it, and just to pummel the people that were in front of him. In this sense, he was about, well, if somebody is looking at me and seeing some worth in me, they must feel pretty damn shit, because if they're looking up to me and I don't even look up to myself, then what the hell does that mean for them? Because what Tyson sees is that he looked up to people to make him feel better. And he's applying the same type of mindset to those who are looking up to him. And if he still hasn't integrated that, then he's automatically going on to the defensive and saying, what the hell's going on with these people? It's an interesting view that he espouses, but it's a very, he owns it. It's really cool that he's able to own it. As a man, you want to come in and have that type of facade that you're presenting, as well as be able to say, this is okay to feel this particular way. And then Eminem jumps in, and this is what he says.
I went through a lot of that shit too, growing up as a kid, and just feeling like I wasn't good enough for anything. Like, whatever I did, I just wasn't good enough. Yeah, man, it's a psychological thing, I think, that once you, for anybody who feels like that, right? Like, I just feel like I'm worthless. I'm not nothing in this world. Anybody who feels that and then finds something that they're actually good at, it's like I think that's what makes somebody go for that so hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I was never good at nothing. I'm good at this. You know?
In my clinical practice, often people who feel like they're worthless or useless, they got no prospects, no way of moving forward, and their self-esteem is just in the gutters. It's often because this is something that they've learned from other people, from the things that they do, and not being reinforced. This is pivotal here, because if you have done something that you're pretty proud of, and kids do this all the time, they jump up to the parents and say, hey, look what I did, and the parents just like, that's crap, that's complete and utter crap, or it's like brushes it off, or what have you. This sort of stuff reinforces what you're bringing to the table. In Eminem's case, you've got the experiences of I just wasn't good at anything. And what he's really saying there is he didn't feel like he was good at anything because it was just never reciprocated, never reinforced. Whenever he may have felt like he'd done something really well, that wasn't reinforced. Therefore, it didn't become a schema, some mental model that he was able to adopt to his own life. And so he looked for what he was actually good at, and then that one was reinforced, which, funny enough for him, it was rap. And that's what moved him forward. That's the thing that you need to figure out for yourself. What is it that I'm good at? What is it that I can apply to my life and move that forward?
The most successful people that ever lived in history are megalomaniacs, but they got a low self-esteem.
Yeah.
You don't think much about themselves, but they think they're God on the other hand, too.
Right.
You know, but those are the most successful people. They're always challenging that doubt.
Yeah.
Making that doubt inconceivable. That's not true. But they still believe it's doubt.
Right.
Even though they prove that it doesn't stop them from succeeding, but they still challenge that, and it still bothers them. They still believe they're nothing. After they made billions of dollars, they still believe they're not shit. That's just how the mind fucks with us.
Yeah, people also think too, like, money just buys happiness, and it absolutely is not the truth. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta be right inside. Otherwise, none of this shit means nothing.
No, absolutely. They get everything, then This is something. This is everything. Fuck this. Pow.
Mm-hmm.
This is everything. I waste my fucking life for this. This is everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here Tyson talks about the different parts that come up within a person. I'm good at this. I've achieved this, and then there's that other part that's sort of like, man, you're just an apostate. You're just somebody who's pretending. You're just there, and someone's going to catch you out in the end. Eminem comes in and says, listen, this is important because it's got to come from in here. You've got to be right in here and over here to be able to move things forward in your own life. And that's the thing that gets you forward. This is huge because you've got people, well-established people, very successful people talking about the things that screw them over. And men aren't exempt for this. Now, of course, there are ways that you can talk about this sort of stuff instead of being perceived as weak. I mean, no one will look at Mike Tyson and be like, this has a weakness. And then he's talking about low self-esteem. He's talking about feeling insecure. He's talking about all this sort of stuff. But that actually builds your level of opinion for this particular person in a way that this is strong because it's proved himself. And the same with Eminem. I want to end on a really positive note here. It's just something that stood out in this interview with me regarding something that Eminem says about his daughter, Haley.
So when I think about my accomplishments, like that's probably the thing I'm the most proud of, is being able to raise kids.
For Eminem, it's not his accolades, it's not his music, it's his daughter, it's his family, it's his way of parenting that sticks with him. He didn't have the type of life that he wanted growing up. And so for him, it wasn't about pursuing a model version of himself. It was about being that person for the people that he loves the most. If I were to guess, on his deathbed, he's going to be looking back at this and say, was I the best dad that I could be? And if that answer is yes, and that's how he's going to sign out with a smile on his face, rather than how much money did I make? Well, let's end it there. And if you enjoyed that video, please jump into the comments, tell me what you think, and subscribe to this channel, like the video, share it around, do your sort of thing. If you don't, just skip on and go from there. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about self-esteem, about vulnerability, about people who are very well known in the entertainment industries when they come out and they give their views, their experiences, and their consolidations of this sort of stuff? I'm signing out. See you next time.